Hello everyone, welcome back to Relax with Animal Facts. I am Steph Wolf, and today I'm going to be learning with you about our furry, scaly, or possibly even slimy friends. And in today's case, it is for sure going to be a furry friend of ours, as it is the rat. So I'm very excited to get into today's episode. It is a special listener episode, of course, to Shannon, who wrote into the show and was the star of the listener mail last week. So thank you so much, Shannon, for supporting the show and for sending in your suggestion. So I definitely have a few sort of negative feelings about rats, which is specifically why I wanted to do the episode, is to dispel some of those things and maybe break some of those stigmas that I have, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have, about these little guys, because it seems as though they can be wonderful pets for those that are into that kind of thing. So just before I get into the episode, I wanted to talk about a few things. The first thing being is that we just passed the other day, we just passed 500 followers on Spotify, which is amazing. And next week, I'm going to be doing a two-parter episode, meaning two animals in one, just to show some appreciation for those of you that listen to over Spotify, and also to those of you that listen on every other podcast sort of network or whatnot, like Stitcher or Apple Podcasts. So thank you very much for your support, all of you. I really appreciate it, and it definitely helps more people relax with animal facts. So today's facts are going to be coming from Live Science or Live Science. Still to this day, I am not sure how to pronounce that. And then the other one is from Terminix.com. So I used two websites this time. It has to do with the rats. And I am very excited to get into this, so why don't we just get right into the show. So rats are thin-tailed, medium-sized rodents that originated in Asia and Australia, but are now found all over the world. True rats, as they're deemed, are members of the genus Rattus, but other, not to be confused with radish, the genus Rattus, and there are other rodent genera, but they're also referred to as rats and share many of the same characteristics. And rats differentiate from mice by being larger and longer, with thinner bodies and longer legs as well. So that is very cool. And the size of the rat can really vary. So according to the Integrated Taxonomic Information System, that's ITIS for short, I guess, if you want to have an acronym for it, there are more than 60 species of rats, which means that they come in all sizes. They are typically about 5 inches, which is about 12 centimeters, or longer, according to Encyclopedia Britannica. And the largest species is the Bosavi woolly rat. And now I searched this up on Google Images, and I was very surprised to see how large this rat truly is. I've seen what I thought to be very big rats before in my past, but definitely it was no Bosavi woolly rat, I'll tell you that much. And that particular species was discovered in 2009 in the rainforest of Papua New Guinea, which seems to be home to a lot of large sort of rodents, I believe. One of the biggest rodent species are from there, I think. So I'm definitely going to be covering that on a future podcast. And it doesn't have a scientific name yet. So Bosavi woolly rat is what we have to stick with. And it is about the size of a cat. So that's going to be about 32 inches or 82 centimeters from nose to tail. And it'll weigh about 3.3 pounds or 1.5 kilograms, according to CNN. One of the smallest rats, in contrast, is the Osgood's Vietnamese rat, and it is typically 5 to 7 inches or 12 to 17 centimeters long. So according to the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, male rats are called bucks, females are does, which is really interesting. Infants are called pups or kittens, while a group of rats, which I think is a really apt name for it, is called a mischief of rats. So that is really cool, a mischief of rats. If you see a group of rats, hopefully you don't see a group of rats in your home when you don't have them as pets. That might be a little bit scary, but just so you know, it is called a mischief. Now, I think it's really interesting that the rats originated in Asia and Australia. I suppose because they're not completely native to Australia, they don't have the name of joeys when they're babies. I was hoping there would be joeys as their baby name, but instead they're called pups or kittens. So super interesting. And as for their habitat, they really are found all over the world. For example, the rice field rat is found in Southeast Asia, and the Australian swamp rat, that's an awesome name, is found in Eastern Australia. And the Norway rat, also called brown rats, is found on every continent of the world, of course, with the exception of Antarctica. I don't think they would do very well there. So that's according to the Animal Diversity Web at the University of Michigan. So as we can see, they really are all over the world, which is great for them that they're not really endangered. So overall, rats live to forage and mate. So that is generally how they live their lives. And most rats are nocturnal, though the brown rat is often awake day or night. So this would explain why most people have rat sightings at nighttime, because the majority of them are nocturnal. See here, it says that rats that stick together in groups are called packs, but earlier it wrote that they were called a mischief. So I wonder which one it really is, or if those terms are sort of interchangeable. Those of you that know more about rats can maybe clarify that for me, because I'm a little bit confused as to why in the same article they have a pack of rats and a group and a mischief of rats. So those of you can send me an email at relaxwithanimalfacts@gmail.com to sort of figure that out, because I am not very sure. So here it says new packs are formed when a male and female go off on their own and nest in an area that doesn't already contain a pack or maybe a mischief. Brown rats are usually led by the largest male in the pack, and other rats may have several dominant males or females in a pack. So having several dominant males or females, it doesn't seem as if they have as hierarchical a structure as maybe some of the other, or at least the same kind of structure that we've had so often on the show, where there's only one dominant male or one dominant female or a group of dominant females. So that is really interesting to me. So rats are omnivores, but many prefer meat when they can get it. So meat, I suppose, is like a treat for them. So house and brown rats usually use humans for their primary food source. Not to say that they're eating humans, but that humans can be oftentimes maybe a little wasteful, or people that don't clean as well as maybe they should, or as well as they can. Rats will they're very good at taking advantage of certain situations to get food. So they will use humans for their primary food source and do what is referred to as scavenging. So that is eating things that have already been eaten, or partially. So they will scavenge through trash or eat any food that is left unprotected. So protect your food, folks, if you don't want uninvited visitors. And rats have also been known to eat grain and also kill insects. So water creatures such as snails, oh no, we just learned about snails, fish and mussels, small birds even, mammals, and reptiles, they will all have those for food. Other rats, such as here's another one of those names, Sulawesi white-tailed rat and Hoffman's rat, prefer vegetarian sort of foods such as seeds and fruits, according to Encyclopedia Britannica. So here we see that they cover a very vast range of food, which is fairly common, I imagine, among scavengers, because they sort of take what they can get. And the offspring, so before the offspring are born, rats will build nests from just about any material that they can find and forage from the area. This will include things such as trash and paper, grass, branches, really whatever they can get their little paws on. And these nests are usually built in crevices, maybe some rotting trees, or in buildings. And rats in general are sort of baby-making machines, as it is written down here. Female rats can mate around 500 times in a 6-hour period. Wow, that is incredible. And brown rats can produce up to 2,000 offspring in a year, according to Discover magazine. So they will have up to 22 young at once although 8 or 9 is more the average. So they can have up to 22, but 8 or 9 is sort of that average number there. And tropical rats tend to only have 1 to 6 babies at once. So we can see even the amount of offspring that rats can have can vary among the species. So while brown rats can have up to 22, tropical rats are going to be a little bit more conservative in that way and have maybe only up to 6 babies at once. So that is very cool. And we always like to talk about gestation periods here on the show. I'm not sure why that became a sort of a tradition there, but after a gestation period of about 21 to 26 days, babies that weigh only about 6 to 8 grams are born. So if you prefer to go by ounces, that's 0.21 to 0.28 ounces. And that's according to the American Fancy Rat and Mouse Association. Wow, where can someone apply to this American Fancy Rat and Mouse Association? I feel like that would be a good talking point. It's like you're on a date with somebody and you have to mention that you are a part of the American Fancy Rat and Mouse Association, and just hope they don't run the other direction. And by the age of about 3 months, the brown rat is ready to reproduce, and rats will typically live around 2 or 3 years. So 2 or 3 years for their weight and size totally makes sense to me. Nothing out of the ordinary as far as I'm concerned. And most house rats, about 91 to 97% of them, die within their first year of life. And that is according to the University of Michigan. So now we're going to move on to some of the nice facts of rats, maybe some of the things that make people want to have them as pets or make them good pets to begin with. So one of the things that's written here is that rats have the ability to laugh. So they make a high-pitched noise when they play, which seems very like a very cute thing to have. And certain types of rats can swim over a mile. So some rats can swim more than me. And some species can tread water for almost 3 days and hold their breath for up to 3 minutes. So for their size, 3 minutes, I am very, very surprised. That is really good. I don't know many human beings that can hold their breath for 3 minutes. And their tails have the ability to keep them cool. So rats will expand and contract the blood vessels in their tails to regulate their body temperatures. So they have, I don't know if this is a autonomic response, meaning that this happens automatically within their body and it's just sort of a stimulus response, or if this is a voluntary contraction. I have no idea. It doesn't see here, but it's not written here, but I believe it's probably an autonomic thing. And rat teeth never stop growing. So dentists would have a field day with them if they were their patients. And their teeth can grow up to 5 inches per year, and they can gnaw through lead, cinder blocks, and even aluminum sheeting, which is just incredible. So they have quite a fervor when they're when they're eating, and if they want to chew through something, they will do their best to get through it. And if they can get through lead, they can get through a lot of things. And some countries even worship rats. So a temple in northwest India, I think I've actually seen a YouTube video about this before. A temple in northwest India is home to more than 15,000 rats who are worshipped by the temple's devotees. And it's not written here, but I think I watched a video about this, and they bring food and offerings and things like that. So that is really cool. And the Sumatran bamboo rat can weigh up to 8.8 pounds, which is the size of a small house cat. So the Sumatran bamboo rat and the other very large rat, the Bosavi woolly rat, I suppose, are competing for some of the largest rats that there can be. So they are social creatures. Most rats will live in communities in which they will groom each other, sleep together, and even play. So I imagine if you are thinking about getting rats, to get not just one solitary rat, I'm sure that they would be much more happy and comfortable with, two or however many, because they are indeed social creatures. Now I understand when Shannon wrote into the show why Shannon wrote that they had so many rats. It's probably because they're social creatures. I'm only taking a guess here. I'm making an assumption. And rats can carry pathogens that spread disease. So that is the main sort of fact there that is the reason why many people have shied away from rats, especially historically. So according to the CDC, rats and mice can spread over 35 diseases. Of course, just because they have the ability to spread them does not mean that every rat has every disease under, in the book. So that is just a fact that is very sort of characteristic, I suppose, or some of the first things that people think of, which, I mean, maybe isn't necessarily fair, but those are some of the things that are attributed to them. Rats can reproduce every 3 weeks, which meaning that rat pups can begin reproducing just 3 to 4 months after they are born. So yeah, just as we learned before, they really are baby making machines, which is super cool. So that is the end of the facts. I unfortunately could not find anything to do specific to the name that was super interesting. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to break that tradition just this episode, because I couldn't find anything too interesting. And we're going to move on to a brand new segment on the podcast, which is me reading reviews on the show. So this is from somebody named Cop1991. This was posted just last month, or I think, 2 months ago. And Cop1991 writes, "It is easy to relax and listen to. I was looking for something I could listen to at nighttime to fall asleep with, that was easy to listen to, and I didn't have to keep up with episode to episode, and this was the best I found. The host has a soothing voice," again, thank you, Cop, "and very nice to listen to. The content is actually very interesting and very easy to listen to as I fall asleep." So that was written on Apple Podcasts. So for those of you that can leave any reviews, so Cop here left a 5-star review. So thank you very much, Cop, for listening to the show and for showing your support this way, because it helps so many people listen to the show, because, it'll show up in there when they search up for certain things. So that is very amazing. If any of you are listening on a platform in which you can leave a review, leave a 5-star review, say what you like about the show, really anything you'd like to write, and I will read it on the podcast every single episode. So there's no listener mail this episode. So if any of you want to have be a part of the podcast, maybe you want to hear a certain animal on the show, or you want to just send in listener mail, you can send an email to relaxwithanimalfacts@gmail.com, and I will respond to you 100%. So if you'd like a shout out, if you'd like to hear your animal on the podcast, please send me an email. I always love to read your emails. And for those of you that aren't already following me on Instagram, go ahead and go to RWAF Podcast on the Instagram app or wherever you use Instagram, and follow that, because there I post updates. Also, if you want to see my doggy as well, Molly is on there. She's a big star of the show, big supporter of the show. So that would be awesome. So thank you all so very much for listening to the podcast. Really fun episode. I definitely think of rats better now that I know that they can laugh and things like that. So very cool. So I will see you all on the next podcast episode with the next animal. Take care.